On this episode of DockSide TV, Captain Chris Roberts and I are going to take a rod, and we're going to start off fishing deep water for bull reds. And we're going to be using dead shrimp on 3/4 ounce egg sinkers, Carolina rigging. We're going to fish the passes, all of the bridges in the Wrigley's and the Pearl River. And we're going to be fishing 20 to 30 foot of water. Captain Chris and Captain Bubby's been catching some bull reds in these deep passes. We're going to try that out and see how that goes. Then we're going to turn around, and on the way home we're going to sneak into some of the duck ponds off the East Pearl River. Got a lot of grass in there. The water's crystal clear, and we're going to sight fish a handful of reds while we do that. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. We've got a brand new hook out called the Bullseye series of the Golden Eye jig heads, from an 1/8 ounce all the way up to a 1/2 ounce. It's an awesome hook, and it looks great on the shrimp Creole. Check out this episode as we tag the redfish today.
Here you go.
Right here.
Big, solid. Yeah, it's a big, beautiful bull red. I'm going to tell you what we're doing out here today, folks. What we're doing is we're talking about, disruptive forces. We kind of alluded to this last year. Whenever you have a hurricane or a storm or a front, something's coming in that's going to disrupt the water for a couple of days. These fish don't feed. What we had was a depression coming in. It pushed a lot of salt water in here, a lot of bait into the river and into the lake. And what happens is when that weather gets rough like that, the fish tend to not feed for a couple of days. So when everything kind of calms down, this is the first day it calmed down, we got out here, we're throwing dead bait, DockSide, some big, beautiful dead bait. And that's really all you need, for these redfish. Now, if it was speckled trout, you probably could throw plastic or some live shrimp, but what we're throwing is dead bait, and what we're fishing is a lot of these cuts and deep water passes where these fish had hunkered down for the last couple of days with the bad weather. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this one off. We're going to throw in another dead shrimp. We're fishing probably in about 20 feet of water right now. Come on, big boy. I know. 20 feet of water right now. Throwing dead bait, 3/4 ounce, Carolina rig with a treble hook. And you can use a circle hook or kale hook. All of them will work for these big old tanks. All right, what we're using is regular Carolina rig, 3/4 ounce. Sinker, barrel swivel, probably got about 1.5 feet a leader, and a treble hook. And all I'm simply doing is taking some dead shrimp. And redfish are bottom feeders, and they love dead shrimp. And it's more of the smell to them than it is the live shrimp like a speckled trout. So if you can get that good, fresh, dead bait, that's what you want. All I'm simply doing is just sliding 2 hooks into that dead shrimp and planting it in there, just like that. Making that pitch back towards that deep water pass. The water's deep, so you're going to have to count it down until that line goes slack. Once that line goes slack, You can click that bail over and just start working it up off the bottom. It's not like live shrimp where you're bringing it back to the boat. You actually want to keep it in the strike zone as long as possible. As long as you can keep it in the strike zone for him to get that smell, him to start hunting it. Once he starts hunting it, then he'll find it. Tell you what we did, got on the trawl motor, tide started pushing a little bit. I switched to a matrix shad, ultraviolet on a 3/8 jig head, and this is what it has produced. Beautiful slot fish, 25, 26-inch redfish, beautiful. So dead bait, plastic, matrix shad, 3/8 jig head. Beautiful fish. God. He's on the butt. Yeah. You just have to wait for the tide movement. You know, we got here early, the tide was barely starting to move. Fish weren't as active as they should have been. The tide started moving a little bit more. Once that tide starts moving, those fish will show up to feed. I mean, he smacked this little, look how far he has it down his throat. He wanted that, son. He wanted that bad. They are hungry. Beautiful fish. See if we can get this matrix shad out. Oh yeah. He makes it all day. More fat. Fatty. Beautiful fish. Probably 7.5 pounds. Oh! God, he hit me. Get him all the way up here. Another slot fish. Beautiful fish.
Alright, I just landed this one. You can see it's that Shrimp Creole, which is one of our best-selling matrix shads. And this is a new hook we came out from the Golden series. This is called the Bullseye. It's a red hook. Same hook as all the other ones, with a red eyeball. Really looks sharp on that Shrimp Creole. Producing these reds like this. We just had a double up. We were fighting both of them. This one wrapped me up around a crab trap, but I got lucky enough to land him, and Chris had his wrap him up on a pollen, which ended up breaking him off at the last second. We're still using a little dead shrimp, but we went to the plastics. You can even tip it with a little piece of shrimp. Either way, man, these redfish are here. It's been a great redfish season. It's nice to see some big ones, too. It's a nice 6.5, 7 pounder. Put him in the well. There he comes. Ready? Got him on that Bullseye 3/8 ounce and 1/2 ounce. That's the two sizes we're using. That Shrimp Creole down his throat. And you see his eyeball just sticking out. That's what you want, down the throat. It's kind of hard fishing plastics in this deep water. We do it quite often, so we're accustomed to it, but it really is complicated. The biggest advice is to use the biggest jig head you can get. You can make it in the lure and look natural. The biggest we make is the 1/2 ounce. Looks pretty good on a jig head, and that way you can get it down, because that's where the redfish are at on the bottom. It's about 25 foot. It's a lot easier with the dead shrimp, but we're having fun with the plastics now. Another nice one. Let's see how big he is. Probably about a 5.5 pound fish. Put him on.
Comes out of the water. again, we're throwing our shrimp Creole, switch to a shrimp Creole, and that new bullseye, 1/2 ounce jig head. You know, shrimp Creole is always one of the favorites. And just hanging out with those redfish. A little fat, right at 12-inch trout. You can tell they're feeding up. They're getting ready for that. They're getting ready for that fall run. You know, we expect the fall run to be awesome in between the river and the lake. You know, it's going to be some great fishing in there. It's a nice little beautiful trout just hanging out. Go ahead and release him. Catch you later, fella. All right, let's see if we can get another one. Show him.
All right, what we did now is we got worn out fighting them big old bruiser reds in that deep water. So what we did is we came in some of the creeks and ponds and little stuff off the East Pearl. Got some good grass growing in here. We hadn't tried this in a while. Still throwing that shrimp Creole on that bullseye, that new bullseye jig head. And this specific redfish, we were coming down this little creek, and right over the land there was a little landlocked looking pond. Little like a small pond, like a big puddle, had some grass in it. We could see the fish from a mile away. Cast it over the land, watched him eat it. Pretty awesome. Gotta love Louisiana.
Oh, it come off anyway. Basically, you know, what Chad was saying, what we're doing is just going through these little small canals off the river, and there's some duck ponds, little small straight canals. This thing's probably 8 or 10 foot wide, and it's pretty deep. It's about 2.5, 3 feet deep, and we're just going through it and just jigging it. You know, 3/8 ounce bullseye jig head with, you know, shrimp Creole on it, and just jigging it through here, and those fish are just in this little canal. The tide's falling right now, so it's pulling everything out of the duck ponds. So what we're doing is just going through the canals, just jigging the matrix shad in these little canals, and those fish are just lining up in here. Redfish. We made our way out of that straight canal into a pond. Sheepheads running everywhere. And as soon as we got in, we probably blew out, you know, 5 or 6 redfish right at the mouth of it. Look at the color on this fish. He is so lit up. Look at him. Fat, chunky little 16, 17-inch fish right here. Beautiful fish. The water in here is crystal clear. Probably the cleanest we've ever seen it in the river before. And that's what you're getting from that big east wind and all that salt water coming in. There's grass on the bottom, and you can see these fish a mile away. But the water in here is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Another one for the box. Perfect eater. Look how he just gobbled up that shrimp Creole and that bullseye jig head. It's an awesome new jig head. You know, beautiful fish. Put him in the box. All right, we got another one. We're going to end the day. Look how fired up that fish is. Big old blue tail. You know, we're just bouncing around different pond systems and whatnot, and there's fish in all of them, you know. Hopefully this year we dodge a hurricane. Another beautiful fish. Look at the spots on it. Getting back in the water. Hopefully we dodge a hurricane this year, which you can expect coming up in September. You know, September is one of those transitional months we always talked about, where fish are kind of moving in, starting to move in for that fall bite in October. So you can look for that to start happening around the beginning of October. Once we get that water temperature to get about 75 degrees, we start getting those northwest cool fronts, start cooling that water down. Once that happens, those fish are filtering here, you know, in the river, in the lake, Pontchartrain, Lake Bourne, surrounding areas, and it's probably going to be an outstanding year if we can dodge hurricanes. As long as we can dodge hurricanes, it's going to be a fantastic year. So make sure you check us out next time on www.DockSideLA.com and on DockSide Live. See you next time.